Hello everyone, welcome to our presentation by Group 13. Before we start our presentation today, let me introduce our members, which are Julian Magdalena Welan, Rahmadinda Awalia, and Sri Hayati. So today we're gonna talk about last periods of English literature.
Last period of English literature. The first is modernism, the second is postmodernism. English and American modernism can be seen as a reaction to the realism movement of the late 19th century, while realism and naturalism focused on the truthful portrayal of reality. Modernism discovered innovative narrative techniques such as stream of consciousness or structural forms such as collage and literary cubism. Modernism is a movement in literature that took place during late 19th and early 20th centuries, mainly in North America and Europe. Modernism marks a strong and deliberate break from the traditional style of prose and poetry. The horrors of the First World War and the changing ideas about reality developed by prominent figures such as Charles Darwin, Sigmund Freud, Karl Marx, etc. illustrated the need for the prevailing assumption about the society to be resisted. Modernists experimented with new forms and styles, irony, satire, stream of consciousness, interior monologue, use of multiple points of view, and comparison were popular literary technique in the modernist literature. In postmodernism, modernist issues regarding innovative narrative technique are taken up again and adapted in an academic, sometimes formalistic way. This literary movement of the second half of the 20th century indirectly deals with Nazi crimes and the nuclear destruction of World War II, while structurally developing to the approach of modernism. Postmodernism was a reaction against modernism, brought about by the disillusionment followed by the Second World War. Postmodernism is characterized by the deliberate use of earlier styles and convention, a mixing of different artistic style and media, and a general distrust of theories. It can be seen as a radical break from modernism when we look at some unique features of postmodernism. Some of these features include irony and parody. Postmodernism works are often characterized by irony and satire. They demonstrate playful, mischievous wit and a love of satirical humor. Pastiche, copying ideas and style from various authors and combining them to make a new style. Metafiction is making the readers aware that of the fictional nature of the text they are reading. Intertextuality, acknowledging other texts and referring to them in a text. Fiction, mixing of actual events and fictional events without mentioning what is real and what is fictional. Paranoia, the distrust in system and even the distrust of the self.
Okay, the next slide we must talk about postmodernism. Some notable writers in postmodernism include Vladimir Nabokov, Umberto Eco, John Hawkes, Richard Coleridge, Gianni Braschi, Kurt Vonnegut, William Gaddis, John Barth, Jean Rhys, Donald Braden, E.L. Doctorow, Don DeLillo, Ana Lydia Vega, Joachim Topol, and Paul Auster. Next, In the 1980s, the avant-garde works of postmodernism, many of which seem exaggerated today, were overshadowed by women's and minority literature. That is, literature written by marginalized groups including women, gays, or ethnic minorities, the latter mostly represented by African American Chicanas and Chicanas. This literature, which have gained considerably in importance over the last few decades, sometimes written to more traditional narrative techniques and genres, often privileging socio-political messages over academic, structural playfulness. Next, in addition to women's literature, post-colonial literature has recently become another center of attention. This vast body of text is also categorized under Commonwealth literatures. Literatures in English or Anglophone literatures. The next slide, literature from former British colonies of the Caribbean, Africa, India or Australia have contributed to a change in contemporary literature. In many cases, but by no means in all, dimensions of content have frequent dominance and act to counterbalance the academic playfulness of modernism and postmodernism.
Partly under these influences, the general trend seems to privilege less complicated and apparently more traditional narrative techniques, while at the same time focusing attention on content more than in earlier, exaggerated narrative forms. This overview of the most important literary movement in English has only skimmed the surface of this wide and complex topic, leaving many authors unmentioned. Any survey in literary history confronts the issue of whether an exact classification of authors and their works is possible. Such a classification must resort to conventions in the absence of set guidelines. For this reason, authors like Arthur Ben, Edgar Allan Poe, Ernest Hemingway, and John Steinbeck are not mentioned in this survey, since they cannot be assigned a definite place in this particular classification of periods and movements. Difference between modernism and postmodernism. Modernism is a late 19th century and early 20th century style, or movement that aims to depart significantly from classical and traditional forms. Postmodernism is a late 20th century style and concept which represents a departure from modernism and is characterized by the deliberate use of earlier styles and conventions, a mixing of different styles and forms, and a general distrust of theories. Time frame: Modernism was prevalent from late 19th century and early 20th century style. Postmodernism was prevalent from the mid-20th century. War: Modernism was influenced by the First World War. Postmodernism was influenced by the Second World War. Rational and logical thinking. Modernism was based on using rational and logical means to gain knowledge since it rejected realism. Postmodernism was based on an unscientific, irrational thought process, and it rejected logical thinking. Earlier styles. Modernism rejected the conventional styles of prose and poetry. Postmodernism deliberately uses a mixture of conventional style. So that's all from us, our presentation. Thank you for your attention and listening. Goodbye and see you next time.